This is in response to Lawrence O'Donnell's segment on the last word on Monday, February 9th, 2015. U.S. and Germany in agreement on ISIL, but at the same time, it seemed the discussion was only about Russia and the Ukraine. And what's going on, obviously, Russia is continuing its foray into the Ukraine, wanting to partition off a section of the Ukraine, having de facto ownership of it for whatever goods that are there. I don't know if there's mineral rights there, if there's manufacturing there, if there's Russian people, and of course, Putin wants to have that extended Russian empire. He wants it to keep going and keep moving. So these are what's going on in terms of Germany and the United States talking about this. And there's a question, should we start arming Ukraine? Number one, if we arm the Ukraine, do we have to teach them how to use some of the advanced weaponry that we have? And if we do have to teach them, how close do we have to get? And if we decide to teach them, how quickly is Russia going to respond, bringing in more stuff once they know that we're going to start training them, because it's going to take a long time to train them, and it may take a while to get some of the weaponry there. Also, what type of weapons are we going to do? Are we only going to do defensive weapons like anti-tank missile weapons? And how quickly can we get them there? How quickly can we train the people there? And how much can it be effective? And now, here's a big thing. What are the sanctions right now? How effective are they right now? And then can we up the sanctions right now? Now, Dr. Howard Dean, who spoke, basically said we need to up the sanctions to just as high as we did against Iran. Now, that's an option. Are we going to take that option? I don't know. It's not necessarily just our decision. We're going to have to work with Germany and our partners in NATO. Why would Germany not want to do it? Is number one, they get most of their oil, as does most of Western Europe, from the Soviet Union. Would they cut it off? Probably not, because oil is way down right now and Russia's not making any money. If they're $50, $70 a barrel, whatever it is, that's still much below than what they need. They do have a large sovereign wealth fund, which can pay for that for a year or two, but they didn't, that's their rainy day fund, which they've accumulated over a couple of years. But it's still going to hurt them. And also you have to remember that most of Putin's friends that are in his inner circle are multi-billionaires whose wealth can be affected by these sanctions. And let's go back into something else. When we arm the Ukrainians, if we're going to arm the Ukrainians, are we in essence having a de facto war against Russia? Because even though Russia is claiming they're not their people, they are their people. They're wearing a different uniform or something else, and they're acting like thugs, but it's all their weaponry. So it is a de facto war. Is it a proxy war? What are our results going to be? Anything that we do we already know what we anticipate Russia will do and that Putin will do? As I said, Russia is a petro state, so can additional sanctions hurt them? As Dr. Dean said, if we do it like we did with Iran, but again, if we did it with the way we do with Iran, that means that they can't trade in any. That means that we cut off any trade with them in terms of dollars. And would that affect Germany? Would that affect France? Would that affect Great Britain? Would that affect, let's say, the Netherlands, Norway? I don't know. So these are things that we have to take very close watch of. And I don't think that Putin can stop the spigot from going over there, because they're not making enough money anyway. So to have there wouldn't be an embargo, but it would just be they wouldn't sell any. that'd be pretty rough on Russia itself. As I said, non-lethal weapons, would that be helpful? I don't really know. Anti-tank missiles, would that be really well? I don't know. And part of it is we need to know what Russia's goal is. What is Putin's end goal in all this? Part of it is he wants to bring back that great Russian empire. And so he wants to take part of Ukraine. He already got Odessa, whatever, the Crimea area. He's already in a proportion of Georgia. Supposedly they just kidnapped a guard in Estonia because they're playing their games with them. Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, they were satellite states starting under Stalin, and were that way all the way until I believe the late 80s or early 90s, something like that. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot to analyze. As far as I'm concerned, Putin is not going to double down. He's going to triple down. He's going to quintuple down, or quintuple. I can't remember the next one after that. Quintuplets. Remember, that's 5. So yeah, he's going to quintuple down, and he is going to be relentless because he has a vision, at least in my opinion, of the great Russian Empire, and he wants to bring it back to the great Russian Empire. But he really can't, because they got lots of problems in Russia. Their population is slowly dying out. They don't have a very long lifespan. It's like 10 or 12 years less than the United States. They have a huge drinking problem. They haven't invested in a heck of a lot of other technologies, which they should be doing. They really are only making their money from their petrostate and all the stuff that Putin and his buddies have been stealing for year after year after year. The multi-billions of dollars they've been stealing for the Russian people are never going to come back to the Russian people. And a lot of it's going to go westward, as we know that there's all kinds of housing that the Russian oligarchs, of course, people from China and other places too, and the Saudis, they're buying the most expensive places in New York City and in where was Werewolves of London? I can't remember. Manchester, or that one section of London, Chelsea. They're buying all the stuff. So the money's never going to go back to the Russian people, and they're going to be hurting for years and years and years. But again, Putin has a big idea about what he wants to do. He's resolute. He'll double down. He'll triple down. He'll quintuple down. It doesn't make any difference how much money he has to do, but he will do it. But the United States needs to know what they're going to do with their partners, how effective it can be, if they can outlast the Russians. Do they really want to have the Ukraine lose that percentage of their country? How much are they willing to step in? Defensive weapons, offensive weapons. How long will it take to arm? How much money will we need? We already know that McCain and his buddy from South Carolina, Graham, they want the war. They want the war to get going right now. They want us to arm. And they want us to get involved. Of course, they want us to get involved in ISIS, just like Billy wants to get us involved in ISIS. So there's a lot going on. And there are some Democrats that want that too, because they're up for election. They need to show that they're tough. So a lot of this is all playing out right now. But the best thing I can say is that we need to stay the course as we are. We need to ratchet it up as we can. We need to know anticipate what his moves are going to be, so that we know what our moves are going to be. And we need to do that in a fairly close time frame, because things can unravel out of control very quickly. So we need to be constantly monitoring this. And as of right now, this is the way we need to go. We need to keep the pressure on, and we need to force Russia to back off.